Welcome, everybody, back to the South End Zone. I am Chad, and you see the newly married man,
Yes,
Tyler,
sir.
over there. Okay, let's go.
Yes,
Let's go. Welcome
sir.
to the fraternity.
Hey.
Only got 27 years on you, but
Oh.
yeah, welcome aboard. We got a lot of stuff to talk about
We
because
do.
this man has no idea. It's like he went into
Zero.
a time capsule
Yep.
for a couple of weeks, and so we get to actually like reveal to him everything that has happened over the last
hmm
couple of weeks and kind of see his reaction as we go. But let's start with, I know that you saw this game, and I
hmm
know that Georgia had a bye week. That's what real people do. If
Right.
you're going to schedule a game, schedule a wedding, and you live
hmm
in SEC country, you
hmm
wait for a bye week, Tyler.
Yes. So one of my groomsmen texted me like I think before college football season started. He's like, "Did you really schedule your wedding on a Georgia bye week?" Because to be fair, we're in Pennsylvania, so me and my family, the only Georgia fans.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, you know what? Actually, I didn't. I called Kirby. I was like, Kirby, can't do it today, this weekend. Think about it, Kirby. Bye week before Alabama. It's perfect. We need 2 weeks. So might as well put on the 21st. No, it worked out perfectly. And Penn State didn't play anybody, so it worked out even better. So like
Mhm.
everybody was loving it on the dance floor. There was no phones, there's no TVs where we were, which is totally
There
fine.
you go.
Because
Yeah.
there's people talking about the October 12th slate of games where it's just like big hitter after big hitter. I was like, nah,
Mhm.
get my wedding out at a nice September Saturday
Boring
where nobody
Saturday.
has to worry about any games. Georgia's on the bye, heading into Alabama, and it's nothing but hype.
Excellent.
So
Yeah,
good.
you did a lot better than my friend. I had a friend back in it's like 99 or 2000, whenever that was. We hadn't beaten Alabama in 20 years in Baton Rouge. We had beaten them a couple of times, like in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, but hadn't beaten them in a couple of decades in Baton
Mhm.
Rouge. Nick Saban, newly hired LSU coach, his first season, we beat Alabama in Baton Rouge.
Mm.
Guess where I was and a bunch of other people at my friend's wedding,
Mm.
because
It's
he scheduled his wedding for not just an LSU game weekend, but the Alabama game weekend.
Is he an LSU fan?
Yes, he
Oh
lives
my
in Baton
god,
Rouge.
that's like
We're in
not
Baton
a.
Rouge.
Oh my yeah, fair
Like
enough.
this is like beyond retarded. So
Mm.
there was a groomsman up there, in his tux on, while the wedding's going on with an earbud in his ear. He had like a little,
Pocket
handheld
radio.
radio, because this is
Yeah.
back in the day when you had to do that and you didn't have phones that had all this
Mhm.
stuff on them. And so then after the wedding, at the reception, everybody's watching the game on the TV. No one was dancing. It was crazy. It's like, man, what are you thinking, bro? What are you
Mm.
thinking? But anyway, I'm glad you got to tie the knot finally, and
We sure
and
did.
you did it in good SEC fashion. But
Yes,
let's
sir.
talk about the game that went down before that, which I know you saw. We'll just briefly go into this one because
Yes,
I think
I'm
you and
happy
I
to
had
talk
kind of
about it.
similar experiences 2 weeks
Right.
ago. Georgia at
Mhm.
Kentucky, LSU at South Carolina,
Yep.
and you guys kind of got a little bit of a gift. There was a pick
We did.
six that
Right.
the ball just barely grazed the ground before it went up
Listen,
in the air.
listen,
Otherwise, you might
listen,
be.
replay don't lie. Listen, listen. The officials owed us one from the catch not catch in the SEC championship.
There you go. Well, I
But
think I think if you had to choose, I think you'd flip flop those, right?
right, no,
Like one of
100%.
those
We'd
is go to
rather
the
take the
playoff, because you're going to the playoff this year, even if you lose
right,
to Kentucky, most likely. So,
right. But
or
that's
if
just
you
like the
don't,
pride.
the Kentucky game's not going to be the reason you didn't. It's going to be because you lose some other games later,
Yeah,
right?
a couple
So,
things about that game. First of all, defensively, we just like Brock Vandergrift did not test us downfield, not one time.
mm,
And when he did not complete any of those downfield passes. Not that I can remember anyway.
mm.
However, these little 5 yard slants, these little shallow crossers, these little underneath routes, we were just letting him just sure have
Hey,
these.
look, man,
Get
that's how I
completions,
win in college football 25, baby.
right? But
Because
like,
they play crazy coverage when you're playing varsity and
right,
higher skill level. So it's all shallow crosses, and I just
yeah.
wait for them to
It's
clear
like
and dump off.
nobody's open downfield.
Right.
But we were just like, why don't you have that? And then we give them the run.
Hmm.
And then on the flip side of the ball, Beck did not look comfortable in that
Mm.
game. they had this number 0 who was the most gigantic human being I've ever seen on their defensive line. And they would just move him to different spots. And then Tate Ratledge gets hurt. And then it all compounds to where you just move him around and you can just tell Beck,
Mrs.
Beck,
Hohenscheld just walked
there
through.
she is. Yeah, there she is. Where Beck just did not look comfortable no matter where he was on the line. He was trying to get the ball out quickly and it looked bad. Like we try, and also on the flip side, we try to test him downfield where we couldn't get too much going and just ignored all of that short stuff where we have some of the fastest receivers in the SEC.
Just get them the ball and let them take over.
The ball.
Yeah.
And the run game, like we didn't they were clearly with that big boy and the rest of their defensive. Kentucky has a solid defensive line.
Yeah.
And they clogged up the middle. And we never once were like, hey, let's maybe take the ball outside.
Right.
Let's maybe do this. Like I understand pound the rock, and we have really strong running backs, but we also have running backs that can create space on the outside and get moving. And there was that. I just felt like Beck, the combination of Beck never seeming comfortable in the pocket. And, it's funny enough, the times where we actually did test them in the right way. So it was bam. We were moving the ball. And I will say this, even as the other fan of the other team, if you are Mark Stoops at home against, we were the number 1 team in the country, and you 4th and 3, even if it's on your half of the field with 2 and some change left, why on God's green earth are you not going for that? Like if you don't get it, you give us the ball anyway, whatever. Right. But you're just opting to not even try. And
here's the thing.
I understand trusting your defense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, go for broke on offense and then try to create the turnover. And then you give up a field goal and you're only down 4.
You're not supposed to win that game.
Score.
You're not supposed to win that game. Right. So you have to take the swing to go for the knockout.
Right.
If you aren't swinging for the knockout, you aren't going to win the game on points. Like that's the way this game is set up, right?
The game is set up. You don't want the ball.
The game is set up to where this is like one of those boxing matches where you know that for you to win, you're going to have to land something big, a big punch.
And they probably would have got it if they just would have pounded the rock there. Like we were giving them 3 and 4 yard plays a lot that entire game. They didn't need to go for the Hail Mary down the field. There was 2.5 minutes left, and they were on the 40-yard line. Right. And I feel weird criticizing them so much because they gave us the win. But it's like, dude, like we got bailed out by bad coaching on their part because we played like crap. And I'll tell you this, it speaks volume. I know we talked about Brian Kelly post game, but Kirby Smart on the field, he was like, "Hey, our guys really didn't get the message we were trying to deliver to them this week," and he said it so casually and calm, not angry, not yelling, not anything like that. I'm like, oh my God, those guys.
Is it possible to look ahead to Alabama for 2 weeks? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you got a bye week and you got Kentucky and just like Kentucky just think of. In Georgia's defense, Kentucky did get the dog mess beaten out of them by South Carolina a week prior. And that's what I was going to say. Like now it just breeds more confusion for me because I'm like, okay, so we saw what South Florida did to Alabama. We saw what South Carolina did to Kentucky. We saw what Kentucky did to Georgia. Then we saw what LSU did to South Carolina on the road after spotting them 17 points to start the game. I'm just like, do I know anything about college football right now that I didn't know before? I don't know.
Here's what I'll say. Like, and maybe I'm not going to give this kind of excuse, but these first couple weeks, especially with it now being a 12-team playoff, you talk about not wanting to give film.
Oh, that's for sure.
We looked so conservative.
Vanilla.
I mean, Beck did not look comfortable, to be fair. But on top of that, we also looked very vanilla when he did have the clean pocket. You know what I mean? And so we'll see. It's going to be, and we'll preview the Alabama game here later. But overall, we got out of there with a win. Stoops bailed us out on bad coaching. I say 15 times out of 10, 4th and 3, no matter where you are on the field. Like I said, Penn State did it Indiana did it against Penn State 2 years ago, where short time, you turn the ball over in a short field. You literally give them the touchdown so you get the ball back right away, or give them the score so you get the ball back, try to make it something happen. Like you can still manage the game that way, even if you were to turn the ball over in the middle of the field. But just like, 4th down, might as well just to willingly give the ball back to us, which I'm fine with. But to
Right,
willingly
right.
give the ball back to us, I thought was crazy. But that's
Hmm.
I'll leave that at that. The whole new week
Yeah,
coming up.
look, a win is a win. A road win in the SEC is not a
By the skin of
guarantee.
your teeth.
So you gotta take it. And you got 2 wins in a row.
Right.
You outkicked your coverage and
Right.
landed a wife that is outside
Yep.
your anyway, I'm
Listen,
messing with you.
I I
I
know
did
these
too.
things.
Hey, look, I did too. So LSU, South Carolina, we kind of went over a little bit already. Spotted them 17 points, played like crap in the first half, but then even with that, we were only down a score at halftime,
Mhm.
and it was came out and got it done in the second half. There were some busted plays where LSU should have won that game by a couple of touchdowns, but we gave up some big runs to the quarterback and to Rocket Sanders, but got it done. UCLA, similar kind of thing, except this one was instead of spotting them 17 points, we allowed them to score 17 points in the first half so that
Mm.
it was tied instead of us beating them by 3 touchdowns in the
Really?
first half. And it was 17-17 at half with what should have been a fumble, sack fumble, and maybe us scoring to go up 24 to
Mhm.
10 right before halftime. But instead, the guy's knee like barely grazed the grass, similar to what happened with you guys and I'll go back to the South Carolina game. We did have 2 pick-sixes that were called back with
Against
penalties.
you, right? I heard this.
Yeah, yeah. So they horse collared Garrett Nussmeier, and while he's being horse collared, he throws the ball into coverage at pick six. The
Yeah.
horse collar is called, so nothing there. Then he throws another pick six in the end zone, and while the guy's running it back, the same guy who horse collared him,
Right.
like blindside blocks him. It
For
was
no reason.
it was a gentle block, but it's like it's a thing that they're trying to crack down on this. They don't want
Yeah.
people head hunting quarterbacks whenever a pick is thrown.
Mhm.
Remember what happened to Joe Burrow in the bowl
Right.
game against Central
Mhm.
Florida, where he came back and threw 4 touchdowns after that, and that was the Joe Burrow that we got to see win the Heisman. That's where he was born, right in
Yeah.
that moment, because you saw that he had that dog in him.
Mhm.
But yeah, so in the UCLA game, similar kind of situation where like we're that close, and instead they keep the ball, they drive down the field, score right before half. Then they get the ball to start the second half. It was a billion degrees. Why they scheduled a 2:30 kickoff in
Mm.
Tiger Stadium in September? It was like 105 heat index, and there's one side of the stadium that's in the sun the whole time,
Mm.
and it was like almost completely empty on that side,
Oh,
and they
jeez.
had like 70 people go to medical tents and stuff
Holy shit.
during the game. Yeah, it was bad. And so UCLA is playing in this, and you can almost see like their desire to fight just kind of melted away in the sun
Yeah, I see they had no
because
second half points.
yeah, so we shut them down first drive, went 96 yards, tud. Shut them down again, 92 yards and a score. So it's just like boom, game over. That was it. That was pretty much all she wrote. They didn't score again. I think they had 89 yards of total offense in the second half. And Garrett Nussmeier he's playing out of his mind. It just looks like he's not doing very much because he's not Jaden Daniels or Joe Burrow. So it's
Sure,
like,
yep, and it's hard to
it's
follow
like
that up.
385 and 3 touchdowns. That's mediocre. Come on.
Yeah, right.
Or 350, whatever it was. But one of the bad things that happened in this game, it was a very poor attempt at a tackle. He just threw his shoulder into the guy, bounced
Mhm.
off of him, and as he was doing this, the force of the hit actually, the way his knee planted, it was revealed, I think on Monday or maybe Sunday, that Harold Perkins tore his ACL. So he is
Yeah.
done for the year, and he may be done as an LSU Tiger because I don't know if he's going to try to enter the draft
Yeah.
while
He
rehabbing
doesn't
that.
have the like, I
Yeah.
mean, you and I have talked year and year about the potential of this just
Hmm.
individual to change the entire complexion of the LSU defense in the
Yep.
pass and in the run. And that's
Hmm.
just that's really sad to see. I didn't know, obviously I didn't know that until you just told me.
Yep.
But that's nothing you want to have happen to anybody, let alone somebody who's supposed to
No,
be a cornerstone of your defense.
and the one thing I was explaining to some people, in our little, group of friends and fans and everything else,
Mhm.
there, there's this dismissive sort of, yeah, he wasn't doing that much though. And I'm like, well, you would only say that if you don't know ball, because
Right.
what he was doing was he was occupying attention and game
Yep.
planning and everything. Like he's getting double teams. They're trying to, if they notice that he's going to be that we're in a man coverage, they'll make sure that they rotate it back to where he's got to cover the back. And there's all these different little things that you can do in that cat and mouse game to where he doesn't just get to light his hair on fire and come off the edge. And the other thing is too, in addition to the fact that he was occupying attention and making it to where teams had to game plan for him. Now, in addition to the fact that that game planning goes away because now you can just kind of play straight up on whoever slides into his role, whether that's Major Burns coming from a safety position and taking over that star position, I guess is what they call it, which is kind of like a monster back rover or whatever, edge rusher / spy, whatever different, whatever it morphs into play to play. You're not going to be game planning that guy like you were Harold Perkins. And the other thing is too, Braden Swinson, 5 sacks on the season so far, had 2 on Saturday. Now you can shift some of that attention to him. Whereas he was benefiting from the fact that this attention was going to Perkins and just lighting up the backfield, getting strip sacks, getting pressures, all this stuff. Now some of that attention is going to shift to him. So LSU's defensive line, edge rushers especially, been playing pretty well. And it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But it is what it is. It's disappointing. I know he was probably disappointed with. I think he would probably want to have bigger numbers than he did, but he still, 10 solos, 4 assists. And that's with them game planning away from him all the time and trying to make it harder on him. So it's a big loss for sure. But moving on, we're going to stay on the recap of this past week, but we are going to move into the non-LSU Georgia. Some of it's still SEC, some of it is not. We'll start with Vandy. What is going on? Who is Vanderbilt? I don't even know anymore. This is not my grandmother's Vandy. This is not even my Vandy that I grew up with. I don't know. Is Jay Cutler back?
The darling sweethearts of the SEC.
Is Brandon Marshall back? What's his name? Jordan Matthews. What are we doing here? What's going on? I'm trying to find the score here, but Vanderbilt, here it is, 30-27 losers in double overtime to Missouri.
That's crazy.
Because they shanked a field goal. They shanked 2, actually.
Oh my God.
Oh, no, actually, it was Missouri had missed a couple of field goals. They missed 3 field goals and then still came back and won. Vandy missed the field goal that would have tied it in overtime. But what's crazy about it is Vanderbilt, I'm just looking at what they've done so far. They beat Virginia Tech. Granted, it was at home. It was in Knoxville, but still. In Nashville. Then they blow out Alcorn State, which, all right, cool, 55-0. That's great. They lose to Georgia State. At Georgia State, but still, this is Georgia State we're talking about. Lost to them by 4. Then they take Missouri to overtime in Columbia.
That's crazy.
Like what? Who is Vanderbilt? I don't know. Of course, this is the year we have to play them. We never play them when they suck, but now we're going to play them when they're like this enigma that I can't figure out yet.
That's I just for the non-SEC fans, the Vandy is the darling sweethearts of the SEC. They are
thanks guys for boosting the GPA,
and the conference and all everybody's win record. Because listen,
right.
Vanderbilt when it comes to football is essentially, unfortunately, a non-contender or has been a non-contender.
They are now 2-39 in their last 41 SEC games.
Crazy. Which I think if you do go back to that's too far. Never mind. They did beat us when James Franklin was the coach, but that was a long time ago. But just they are essentially an Ivy League school that they let into, or at least very prestigious academic institution that they let into the SEC because they are in the South. They're in Nashville, Tennessee, and yet here they are doing who knows what.
Vanderbilt was in the SEC before Arkansas, South Carolina, Texas A&M, Missouri, and obviously Texas and Oklahoma. So they've been around a while. It was the original 10 was Auburn, Alabama, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. Those were the 10 SEC teams originally. And now we've added 6 teams to that.
Mhm.
But no, Vandy's been around for a long time. So even back then when, it wasn't the great disparity that it is now between how good everybody else is and how bad Vanderbilt is. But anyway, it's just they're an enigma. Who knows when they will sneak up and get that first SEC victory or that third SEC victory in their last 40 some odd. But it's coming. I'm assuming at some point. I just hope it doesn't come in Baton Rouge. I guess I think we're playing there. But anyway, moving right along. Is Tennessee legit? Because there were some questions about Nico Iamaleava and, freshman, although he's a redshirt freshman, but still freshman going on the road for his first road start, playing in Oklahoma against the Venables defense, at night in Norman, nationally televised game, all that stuff. It was the marquee matchup this week. They got it done, and I think they probably should have won bigger than they did because Jackson Arnold ain't it, man. He got benched. He got benched.
Really?
Yes, he got benched. He was like 7 for 15 or 6 for 15 or something like that for 50 yards and a pick, and got yanked. And they didn't do much better after that. But I don't know. Is it an Oklahoma thing, or is Tennessee actually legit? Was that Tennessee's defense? Because they've got their secondary is not great, but their front seven is good. And of course, you've got some talent on offense, and Nico does his thing. So I don't know.
It's hard to say. I mean, they haven't lost yet, so it's a matter of like how they play to the team that we think, verifies them essentially.
Right. Yeah, because there's so much unknown right now. Even the stuff that we thought we knew, we're finding out like, maybe we don't know as much as we thought we did.
September's almost over. The finding out period is almost over because once October and November come around, it's put up or shut up. It will know.
Exactly. So next, is Miami legit as we move out of the SEC? I don't know, but like the evidence is starting to mount that maybe they are, because they are beating the doors off of people, and it's just going to be one of those like, let's see when they get their tough matchups if they can keep this going. But Miami looks very solid. What doesn't look solid anymore though is the Iowa under. The Iowa under. I don't have any liquor to pour out for them, but it's over. Sing the music. It's time to have the funeral for the Iowa under. They have scored over 30 points themselves in 3 of their 4 games, and they gave up. They lost 20-19 to Iowa State in the only other one. So the days of the 26.5, 23.5 Iowa under hitting are long gone, because they might clear that number themselves.
R.I.P.
And they can't stop anybody.
Feels like it was just last year when me and my brother were breaking down punt coverage and sweating under 23.5 or 24.5 against Nebraska.
It was
unbelievable. That's so crazy.
And FSU finally won. Congrats, guys. All right.
Who'd they beat?
Who did they beat? It was not impressive. I thought they were going to lose too. Memphis, maybe?
No, Memphis beat them.
Memphis beat them. Okay, that was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So who did they play this week? Man,
I feel bad for putting you on the spot. Oh, Cal. They beat Cal.
Cal, that's right. Yeah.
14.
Yeah, who I thought actually should have beaten them. Because I thought Cal was better than that, but apparently not. Also, somebody who I thought was better than they are is USC. I was really rooting for USC to do LSU right by winning this game and going undefeated and making it look like, well, yeah, that's the only team we lost to. Look at them. Kind of like Florida State last year. Did not happen. Michigan's offense is not good. Their quarterback threw for like 30 yards, and they're still able to pull off this win just by running the ball down USC's throat. They also got a pick 6. And they had one like late in the game. USC's up by 3 or 4, and they've got like they run a off tackle play, and this guy has the running back wrapped up and just like rolls on the ground, and like somehow they like roll together, but the guy doesn't ever touch the ground and keeps his feet. And tackle is broken, and then he's just gone for 40 more yards.
Mm.
Puts it inside the 15 or whatever with like a minute and a half left, and then they just like slowly ate the clock away before punching it in with like 30 seconds, 40 seconds left. And then by the time USC got the ball back, they didn't have any timeouts, and they had like 30, 40 seconds to try to get to field goal range, and they couldn't do it. So Michigan won the game by 3. And Auburn is still Auburn. I completely forgot what game they played, but it was bad. Arkansas. So Arkansas's 3-1, and they beat Auburn 24-14 in Jordan Hare. And I don't think Arkansas is good, like, but apparently they're good enough to get this done. And this, I don't know, this Green kid might actually be Talon Green might actually be decent.
Really should be 4-0. Arkansas really should be 4-0, considering
they should have beaten Oklahoma State
down their leg against Oklahoma State and gave up a big lead. So really, they could be 4-0. So who knows?
So adding to the confusion is who the hell is Clemson? Because you guys beat them like a drum, and they couldn't score to save their lives. And now Kate Klubnik is just like running all over people, and they're putting up numbers, and they're getting it done. And I don't know, is Clemson still like the team to beat in the ACC? And Miami's not really Miami until they beat Clemson. I don't know. Like I swear I've never gotten to this point in a season before and been this clueless about how to read the signals that I'm getting.
We're just kind of throwing stuff out there. We're calling it like we see it, and then they're just like, "Oh, you're wrong.
You're wrong." Yeah. Oh, you thought we were good, huh? Watch this. Hold my beer. Speaking of teams who you thought could do a little bit, I knew North Carolina didn't have a very good defense, but what in the hell? They scored 50, I don't remember how many, 50-something, 54, 55, 58 points in the first half.
So it
was 53. They scored 53, 25 in the first quarter, 28 in the second quarter. It was 53-21 at halftime.
So this is, I got a little inside baseball. This is the only score that I found out during my wedding, and that is because my cousin is a freshman offensive tackle at JMU. And his mother, my aunt, was at my wedding. His mom and dad were at my wedding. And my cousin plays scout team offense right now. And he apparently on Friday told my aunt before I wish we would have known. I would have hammered it. Yeah. He told my aunt before the game, he's like, "I know their plays. We're going to kill them." So that on Friday.
And they were 10.5-point dogs, too.
Right. He said, "I know." And they went down to Chapel Hill and beat them. And they're undefeated right now. I heard
beat the dog out of them.
Like they're undefeated.
I'm telling you, it was 53-21 at halftime, and then it was. Let's see, what was when did they? They
could win the Sun Belt, Chad. App State's 2-2 just got beat.
It was 60-24. It was 60-24 before North Carolina actually started. To try to get back into it. 60-24. With 10 minutes left in the third quarter.
Apparently, it was written in the stars, according to my cousin. He's like, I've run their offense against our defense, and we're gonna kill them. And there you go.
Hilarious.
So
there you go. So another big scoring game. I don't have much to say about this. It's just weird to see like two games like this in like not like you. Sometimes you'll see this and it'll be in some like some stupid game where like you don't even. It's maybe a school that you didn't even know was in Division I, something like that. But this is SMU and TCU going 66-42 after JMU and North Carolina went 70-50. I thought that was kind of crazy. So I don't know. We'll keep an eye on this stuff because there's some over potential there. Now let's get into the nitty gritty, my friend. You've had 2 weeks to think about this.
I have.
Although I guess maybe you had other things on your mind. But Georgia, Alabama, you got to go to Tuscaloosa. And you both have had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. Oh, no, wait.
We have.
You have. Yeah, they took a bye week too. Yeah, that's right. Yep. You both had 2 weeks to prepare. So how are we feeling?
My assessment, and I rewatched like the film from the Wisconsin game, and then we go back to the USF game, that Alabama has, well, they always have, but even more this season, insane chunk play ability. To where they scored. I think there was a drive in Wisconsin. They went like 99 yards in 2 plays. So the chunk playability.
Oh yeah, that was
the
right
speed,
before half, I think.
right? The speed at which the receivers play with obviously you have to respect Milroe's feet. And Milroe's arm talent, is Milroe a legit thrower now? I mean, he's just throwing guys and letting them get open. He's just throwing it up, and these guys are so. But to be fair, I mean, there's 2 guys on some of these receivers, and they're getting the ball. However, the yards after catch ability of all those receivers is unbelievable. Ryan Williams, 17 years old, just open by 30 yards on these DBs. Insane. So the chunk, like compared to what Kentucky just did to us, which was, we kept them in front of us and we just squeaked it out. This is there's always been the saying, and it hasn't. Georgia, we used to have a saying called the 3rd and Grantham. And that was when Todd Grantham was our defensive coordinator. And it's like, hold him on 1st and 2nd.
He was wasn't he the Mississippi State coordinator too? And he did the same thing there.
Yes, wherever he goes, it's the 3rd and Grantham. It's you stand up for two plays, and then all of a sudden it's like 3rd and 15, and then they just rip one 40 yards over your head. Yeah. So we cannot allow that to happen. And we need to get going. We need to stay confident on offense. Beck needs to get going. We need to be versatile on offense. Like I said, we have some of the best receivers in the land, especially with the transfers that we brought in. We have a deep running back room. We need to spread the ball around, and we can't be vanilla. We can't be Mike Bobo vanilla. We cannot do that against Alabama. We will lose, and we will lose badly. Us being now relegated to second in the land, whatever AP poll doesn't mean anything. They don't watch football. But us being second in the land is the best thing that could happen to us before this game, in my opinion. We talked about it before. Being relegated in the rankings without losing a game, maintaining your record. I mean, it was more important when it was a 14 playoff. Still important now in a 12-team playoff. We have to limit their chunk playability. When I watched the film of Alabama against Wisconsin, it is literally like watching Washington against Texas. It is literally that same thing where guys are just miles open. We're throwing it. You know what? 1st and 10, we're going deep. For 2nd and 5, whatever, we're throwing a 30. Looking down the field at all times, and then all of a sudden up the middle, what's his name? I forget his last name. The running back for Alabama. The whole Jam Miller. Like there was literally like they were gashing him, and then all of a sudden the entire offensive line went left and he went right. Yeah, you know what I mean. So limiting the chunk playability and trying to neutralize the speed of Alabama's offense is what's going to be the key for us, and just keeping Beck comfortable because we're going to Tuscaloosa with Beck. That's my assessment of what we got going on.
So at the risk of doing what I have done before, which is to overestimate or prematurely write the obituary of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Although I was correct in my prediction that Nick Saban was never going to win another national championship after the 2020 joke of a national championship. Say what you want to say about whatever. It's the greatest team ever. Yeah, okay, whatever. You played in a 10-game season. You didn't even play like the normal schedule. You didn't have to go through all the stuff that you normally have to go through. Y'all never play anybody out of conference. And also, if you think that's the greatest team ever and the 2019 LSU team wasn't better than that team, Joe Burrow, Mac Jones. That's all I have to say.
Right.
Shut up.
Right.
I hate you.
Right.
You're ridiculous. It's insane. And I think we're seeing now, like we see with Jaden Daniels, like what we told people all along was like Chicago should have drafted Jaden Daniels instead of Caleb Williams.
We said it. Malik Neighbors and Jaden Daniels are better than Marvin Harrison and Caleb Williams.
Yeah, exactly. And certainly better than Bo Nix and Michael Penix. But anyway, and I love Michael Penix, don't get me wrong. And Bo Nix, I like the dude. I don't think he's a great he's like Russell Wilson, but like not as strong of an arm. It's kind of weird. But I was gonna say, so at the risk of sounding like I'm shitting on Alabama when I shouldn't be, because they're like this sleeping dog that I should just let them, go about their business and not stir anything up. Not that they're listening to me, but their signature win so far this year is against a Wisconsin team that has
their quarterback got hurt first quarter.
And they have a 28-14 win against Western Michigan. and a 27-13 win against South Dakota prior
Yeah.
to that Alabama game. And then, yes, when they're playing Alabama, the Locke kid, Braden Locke, gets hurt and doesn't play the rest of the game. He only went like 13 of 26 for 125 yards and a touchdown. But the other thing is, I don't know how, like, Wisconsin has had good defenses.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
not the
know.
same. These are not the
I don't know
Wisconsin
how. There's
teams
something's not there. I
of
don't I
like,
don't see.
and you and I both like Luke Fickle, but
Yeah, I
these are
thought Luke Fickell
not
was going to
the
do more than that.
these are not the late two, like, at least from my time, the late
Right.
2000s, early 2010s of like the Monty Ball, James White,
Mhm.
Melvin Gordon squads with a solid defense behind them. This is not those teams. They're trying to find an identity still. So
Right. And then I go back also to, it's 21-13 in the fourth quarter with 6.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter in Tuscaloosa, and South Florida kicks a field goal on 4th and goal from the 4. And you're thinking, okay, well, that's okay because when they get the ball back, they'll have a chance to, come back down and take the lead. They never really got the ball back
no,
much. That
yeah,
was pretty much it. And
they got down
Alabama
there and
took
couldn't get in.
Alabama took a 21-16 lead with six and
Yep.
a half minutes left in the game and turned it into a 42-16. Looks way worse on paper than it actually
Right.
was if you were watching that game in person or watching the
Mhm.
game, live, whatever, not in person. But yeah, so I just wonder. That's why I don't know. I don't think I'm going to know until after this weekend
Right.
if
Me
you
neither.
guys are legit and if that win against Clemson was actually like a really impressive win, or if Clemson's just that bad and some of the teams that they've been beating up on lately are that much worse. And
Mhm.
if Alabama is actually way better than I am giving them credit for, because what they're doing is actually making these teams look worse than they are, and not that those teams are not that good, because Alabama's that I gave you their signature win. Their other two wins are a 63-0 win against Western Kentucky and that game against South Florida at home
Mhm.
that Alabama could have lost. A couple of things bounced differently, and South Florida beats Alabama. And this is a South Florida team that Miami just beat 50-15. And that's what I was saying.
Mhm.
Like, is Miami legit? I don't know, because
We have
they
no
weren't
idea.
in they weren't in a dogfight with South Florida in that game. Let me see. What was the it was, let's see. It was 14-9 at the end of the first quarter. Miami's up. Then they're up 15. South Florida's up 15-14. So it's like, okay, this is all right. By halftime, it's 22-15 Miami. By the end of the third quarter, it's 36-15 Miami. And then that was all she wrote.
Right.
Alabama let South Florida hang around until 5 minutes to
Dude,
go in the fourth quarter.
and gave them multiple chances that South
Yes.
Florida just couldn't,
They couldn't
unfortunately,
they
capitalize.
couldn't
But they
capitalize
had
on it. Right.
opportunities to
Mm-hmm.
put up a couple of field goals, or at least get
Couple of
down
missed
there.
throws, couple of drops.
Right. They were
And
there. They
just
hung in until
they
they
were
couldn't
there.
anymore.
That's right. So I don't know. I don't, like I said, I don't want to be stupid and say like Alabama's, a joke and this is not, but you have a couple of things going on. The Nick Saban intimidation factor and the Nick Saban Kirby Smart thing is gone.
Mhm.
That's not there anymore. And then you have the, Kalen DeBoer, first year coaching in the SEC, finally going to have a real test. First real test of his career in the SEC.
Mhm.
First SEC game.
Yep.
And it's against Georgia.
It's this
It's
game.
against Kirby Smart. And Alabama sent like 10, 15 dudes to the NFL draft last year.
Yeah. Best receiver with the
Like
transfer portal.
so it's just, yeah, and lost some guys to the transfer portal. The only thing they got back was like Jalen Milroe and like a couple of other dudes.
Yeah.
Everything else is like
New.
either
They're building
transfer
on new
portal
stuff
or
for them.
guys who have come up through the ranks, and they lost a bunch of talent to the transfer
Mhm.
portal. So I think the jury's still out. I don't know yet.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I think that DeBoer. I think that this is his true. Like, this game, and this game has become more and more like elevated as the years have like the past like 5 to 10 years. This game has
Right.
become more and more and more and more. Obviously, us being in the East and Bama being in the West, but we've just met in so many big games at this point that you can't not. Yeah, to rise to this kind of occasion.
Right.
So we'll have to see.
So speaking of teams that you should beat, but you're not sure if it's actually like that much of a foregone conclusion. South Alabama comes to Baton Rouge this weekend.
Mm,
And this is a South Alabama team that last year, if we remember, beat Oklahoma State in Stillwater 35 to
they
7.
did.
And a couple of weeks ago, they now this one was in Alabama, but still they were playing another school from Louisiana. Not a good one, but still. Northwestern State. I have never heard of this happening before, at least not in the last century. Okay. I know this kind of thing happened a century ago or more. This game, the final score was 87 to 10.
Oh my god.
South Alabama beat Northwestern State. Do you want to hear what the last play of the game was?
Last play of their that. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Last play of that game. Yep. It was a 1-yard loss by the some Bishop Davenport, whatever. Anyway, on 3rd and 8. Oh, so they just like knelt it out. Well, anyway, my point is they knelt it out with 10 minutes left or 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter,
Oh,
and they called the game.
wait.
Yeah.
What?
They did not finish the game.
They just
The
mercy
Northwestern,
or was
the
it weather?
Northwestern coach was like, "Yeah, we're done."
Can you forfeit? Is that like a legal? Is that like a real thing
I
you
don't
can
know.
do?
I don't know, but it's just like they called the
Can
game.
you legally
It was
forfeit a
87 to
football game?
10 with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they were just like, "Yeah, we're done.
We're going home. Oh my god, dude, just take it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, yeah, you're just taking it on the chin, but I mean, who knows? Maybe you just let them score
Yeah,
100.
South Alabama scored. So it says 4 minutes left, but it's
Yeah,
not because like if you look at the way that they do the stats on here, I'd have to look somewhere else.
that's
But
so crazy.
but yeah, it's basically the first or the fourth quarter, according to the Yahoo stats, starts with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
That's
So
wild.
so the way that's not how they started it. They started with 15 minutes, but the way that the stats show up, that's what it
Yeah,
was. It's like 6 minutes, 5:18, 4:34, 4 minutes, 3:57, 3:57, 3:49, 3:02, 2:18, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 1:48, a minute, 36, boom, end of regulation, end of game on 4th and 9 on the South Alabama 2, where they're on their own 2-yard line. They just knelt it out on their own goal line with 10 minutes left in the game. So I don't know. Like, is South Alabama like somebody to be feared? The way LSU played defensively in the first halves so far this year has me a little bit concerned, but hopefully they can get it done and beat what should be an inferior South Alabama team. Shout out to one of my clients, Luke. We were supposed to go to the game, but there's a big storm headed at the Florida Panhandle, and it's going to catch a little bit of that area, or we weren't sure if it was or not. So we had to kind of kill the plans earlier this week. But he actually went to South Alabama and his fiance. So it's funny. You got married this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The weekend before that, he got engaged.
Oh wow!
And so they were going to come and go to the game, but it was just logistically it wasn't going to work out. So we canned it. I want to get into a couple other games though that I think are pretty interesting this weekend. And this goes again to the confusion that I have as I try to read the tea leaves or the runes or whatever of college football this year, because I don't know what a lot of this stuff means right now. Is Kentucky good and South Carolina's that much better and then LSU's that much better because they beat them, or is Kentucky really bad and South Carolina's just a little bit better or a good bit better than them, and then LSU's just a hair better than South Carolina, and then Georgia's just like not that good because you almost lost to Kentucky? Or is there just like this combination of emotions and looking ahead to the Alabama game and LSU going on the road, and I don't know, there's just a whole bunch of variables. You get to a week like this, and I'm looking at an Oklahoma team that was playing where they were like 5.5-point dogs, I think, against Tennessee, and they were in the top 15 prior to this past week. They go and lose at home to Tennessee, but then now they're going on the road to Auburn, who is terrible. Terrible.
He's got Peyton
Auburn just
Thorne
lost to
as their
Arkansas.
quarterback.
Huh?
You got Peyton Thorne as your quarterback still, I'm pretty sure, right?
Peyton,
Like that's
quarterback, yes. And let's pull up. I want to pull up the.
That's what Hugh Freeze deserves, by the way.
Right, exactly.
He deserves nothing but this.
Yes. So Auburn is 44th in the country in points scored per game. That's surprising, but I don't remember who they've played, but it's not much. Cal, I think, was the big game. So Peyton Thorne's actually thrown it around a little bit. 284 a game, 32nd in the country, and Oklahoma is not so good in that realm. Oklahoma's only 28% from third down, and Auburn's good. I don't know, but like
who knows? We'll find out. There's a lot of finding out this weekend. I
still go back to like Auburn lost to Arkansas this weekend. They beat New Mexico by a couple, 3 touchdowns. They beat Alabama A&M, which is meaningless, 73-3. But they lost to Cal, a Cal team that went around and beat or almost beat the Florida State team that was previously 0-3.
Yeah.
So, like, what does college football mean? I think they upset the space-time continuum when they did all the realignment, and you have Cal playing in the ACC now.
Yeah.
It just some things broke in the
Cal
universe.
playing a conference game in Tallahassee, Florida.
Exactly. Cal playing a conference game in Tallahassee is insane. And so the other one that was crazy to me, so Oklahoma going to Jordan-Hare, 2.5-point favorites, whereas I bet if you looked at this line 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, if you had to project it, you would have probably had it in the double figures, maybe even pushing 3 touchdowns. It would have been at least 14. Another one is Arkansas going to College Station to play Texas A&M. Going to College Station, A&M is a 4-point favorite.
You know what's crazy? Like if the quarterback Green can play, because didn't A&M swap their quarterback out, right? And he's like the new one playing like right?
Yeah, Wegman got hurt, and I don't know.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, they're
put in for him as like legit.
Yeah. The what's his name? Now you're gonna make me have to go look it up.
Sorry, I'm asking questions.
This Reed, what's his name? Marcel Reed. That's it. And he's pretty good. But every time I try to click on something, I get a notification and it changed. So he was 16 of 29, 173 and 2 touchdowns against Bowling Green, 11 of 17, 2 touchdowns, 178 yards against Florida. Whereas Connor Wegman was 23 of 44 for 225 on the season, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. So he's performed better than Wegman, and he's also Wegman got hurt, and he runs a little bit more. He's got 32 carries for 217 yards and a touchdown on the season rushing, whereas Wegman was not 11 for 65, and I think a bunch of that is probably sacks. Sack yardage too. Yeah, you got two sacks for Wegman, 1 sack for Reed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, what does this mean? When
ugly
Arkansas and Auburn are 2 of the worst teams in the SEC, and you've got 2 teams that were at least mid-tier or upper mid-tier, or maybe in Oklahoma's case, even like lower end of the top tier.
Yeah,
not the top tier, but you know what I'm saying, like lower top half, lower the top half of the conference. And they're both like barely favored playing against.
I don't know. Arkansas, this is a spot right. I don't know about Oklahoma, the Oklahoma game. That's an ugly game, but I don't know. Sometimes Arkansas, the way that I saw them perform in the first half, and it was isolating a singular half of football against the Oklahoma State team, also probably isn't that good. The first half, just Taylor Green and the running back, and I already forget his name, but Arkansas's running back, both very good. And I just think that like this is a good spot for them to potentially go into College Station and beat A&M straight up. I really do.
Jaquindon Jackson.
Is that again?
Jaquindon Jackson is the running back.
Very good. Very good.
He's got 8 touchdowns already.
Right. Jaquindon Jackson, he's a stud. So I think that like they could walk into College Station and beat him straight up.
Yeah, he's averaging just under
That's
7 yards
my
a carry.
very bold but very possible prediction for this weekend.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if it's like, oh man, take the
I'm not touching it, but that's my
yeah, like
feeling.
take A&M minus the 4, and it seems like what they're trying to bait you into, but it's like it's almost like, no, man, the shark play is to take
Yeah.
Arkansas plus the
Arkansas
4,
money line, baby.
even though it's not that much, or take Arkansas money line. Yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
that's right, and then just roll the dice on it. So back speaking of Oklahoma State, them and Kansas State. This is like two enigmatic Big 12 teams, the two leftovers from the old Big 12 still hanging around over there. And this one is going to be interesting. These two teams, it's hard to tell, like, are they seem to pretend sometimes to be like top 10, top 15 caliber, and then other times they act like they shouldn't even be in the top 25. The only other matchup that I'm marginally interested in is this Illinois Penn State game. Illinois gave Nebraska all they could handle and came out with a surprise win, and they're playing really well. Penn State has had trouble with teams that wear those colors, Bowling Green.
They certainly have.
But I think Penn State's got a really good squad, and I think they dodged a bullet early on with Bowling Green, and I think they're set up to do well in this one.
Depending on how you feel about Illinois, looking at ESPN bet, the line here is minus 18. Mm-hmm. Given how Illinois just played against Nebraska, now we are talking. You always got to talk about this is ever present. You're talking about Beaver Stadium at night.
Yep.
Beaver Stadium for a 7:30 kickoff. It's certified different. I don't care what kind of weather it's going to be this weekend. Mm-hmm. It's going to be. You gotta. Yeah. I don't know. I know they're wearing their the only alternate uniform that Penn State ever wears is like their Generations of Greatness, where they put the numbers back on the helmet and they have the striped socks and the white cleats. That's literally it. Yeah. But it's different for them, and they love it. But I don't know. I think it's gonna be very interesting. It's a night, and you know what's funny? As we just talked, the lines moved to 19.5, and the total just dropped. So who knows? Who knows? The theme of this college football season is who the hell knows, and if somebody tells you they do, they don't.
Yes, that's right.
It's like I
heard some people that were very adamant that they knew that they had it pegged that Oklahoma was going to beat Tennessee, and that Tennessee was overrated, overhyped, and they had it pegged, and then it's like, no, bro.
No, Jackson Arnold's probably not that guy. We all thought, these quarterbacks that come in these bowl games in the postseason, Nico and Jackson come in, and you're like, oh, they're really good. Just kidding. Never mind.
Yeah.
But Nico so far is legit, and we'll see if that continues.
Well, when you can run like he can run, and you have weapons that you can hit deep, it's a little bit different from if you're not. And I'm not saying Jackson Arnold's not a capable runner, but it's just this Hawkins kid is, I don't know, it just seems to be getting it done better in the passing game. At least in that game against Tennessee, he did. Arnold. Let me pull up the numbers from that game, because that's where it was the most stark, because Temple, Houston, Tulane, y'all should all be putting up numbers. And so you can't really judge anything. Yeah. So, Michael Hawkins was 11 of 18 with a touch, and Jackson Arnold was 7 for 16, 54 and a pick.
Yeah, gross.
And Hawkins was 11 of 18, 132 and a touchdown. And then Hawkins had 12 carries for 22 yards. So he had some sacks, 2 sacks for 23. So actually he had 10 carries for 45 yards, but then 2 sacks for minus 23. Whereas Jackson Arnold had 1 sack for 4 yards and didn't really. Okay, that's weird. How are they saying that he had? They're saying he had 1 sack for 4 yards, but then he had 5 carries for negative 21. How? Unless there must have been a fumble or something like that, where they snapped it over his head and he ran back and recovered it, and they dinged him for that. But anyway, clearly his long rush was 7 yards, and the Hawkins kid was, hitting 10, 11 yarders here and there. So clearly Brett Venables saw something where he wanted to give him a shot. It wasn't that Arnold was hurt. He just got benched. So I'm not sure what to expect out of that. I think their defense is starting to become more of a Brett Venables defense. I just think that the offense did so little that it left them on the field too much, and they weren't able to sustain it because they actually hung around in that game for a little bit. It was 19-3 early on. Oh no, they did. Okay, that's right. I'm thinking of another game. This one, it looked a lot worse. I mean, it looked a lot better at the end than it actually was. Tennessee was in control of this game. It was 22-3 at one point, and then in the fourth quarter, Oklahoma got a couple of scores and made it look a little tidier at the end. But
we just think about the offensive firepower that we've associated with Oklahoma. Like I always think about the 2016 semis and the fact that the Oklahoma team that we played had Baker Mayfield, Mark Andrews, CeeDee Lamb, and Hollywood Brown all on the same offense.
Yeah.
Like it's a stark contrast to what these teams that we've been seeing lately.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll have.
But that was the Lincoln Riley model, though, right? And then it was like defense, schmefense.
Yeah, put up 80 points and hope they can't put up 81.
Right. Exactly. Oh gosh, man, it's and that's kind of what LSU was last year. I'm gonna be honest.
You're not wrong.
It's not fun. And look. As much as people have their complaints, and I have them too, about this year's LSU defense, it's like a gulf between us in terms of what I had to watch last year. Where I posted that thing in the chat with Jeremiah and Drew about Jaden Daniels having 2 games where they'd never punted and never turned the ball over. They scored on every single possession.
Yeah.
That was LSU's defense performance last year.
Yeah.
There were multiple games where you were lucky if the opposition punted and turned the ball over more than like once or twice. Mm-hmm. It was a touchdown most of the time, and you just had to match them haymaker for haymaker. And so, you could say what you want to say about, well, that probably helped Jaden Daniels win the Heisman. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I tend to think if they had been able to stop people, he probably would still have put up huge numbers. It would have just been, you go undefeated or maybe you lose one game, but you're not giving up, 45 points a game and having to score 50, So you could have scored 50 and beaten people 50-21 instead of 50-38.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, but yeah, that's kind of where Lincoln Riley has been. It's a little bit better this year, but they just couldn't get it done against Michigan. And now you've got a really big game this week.
We sure do.
And then we've got a bye week next week, and then our big game, the first one of a handful, is we got Ole Miss coming to Baton Rouge in a couple of weeks. So we got this one, and then we got
this weekend will tell us a lot. I think this weekend. This weekend, I feel like it's going to, at least in terms of the SEC, kind of see where people are in the pecking order. Yeah. Who's playing who and things like that. You got Kentucky, Ole Miss, and all the other games we talked about. So,
I think you got a bunch of teams that are off this week.
Yeah, we do.
So Florida, Missouri, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Vandy are all off this week, and Kentucky travels to Oxford to play Ole Miss. We already talked about Oklahoma, Auburn, and Arkansas A&M. You got Mississippi State going to Austin to play Texas, and then of course you guys have Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and we've got a non-SEC game. We're the only non-SEC game that isn't a bye.
You guys got this late, but you guys also had USC and UCLA in the same schedule this year, so you guys are playing a lot of non-conference games, which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready for this weekend. I'm very nervous yet excited for this game. I think
this is the best. This is the best game. Yeah, this is the biggest game that we've had all year so far.
Yeah, so it's electric. And College Game Day will be there. We're going to be in Tuscaloosa. Yeah. I think that Kirby, for your legacy and for the love of all that is holy, we need to get it done. Like, we have to. He's not the boogeyman. He's not there anymore. He can't get you.
Right.
He can't hurt you anymore. He's gone. We have to take care of business.
Get it done, Dogs, and get it done, Tigers. Let's get this one done clean early so people can go home. beat the traffic, and then we'll
Right.
take a week off and go play Ole Miss in Baton Rouge. So we are not going to take another week off, though. We will be back again next week. We're sorry about last week, but it is what it is. Man's got to marry who he's got to marry. So
true.
Congratulations again, Tyler.
Thank you,
and the South End Zone is ready to say sayonara for this week. Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe. I am Chad. He is Tyler. South End Zone is out of here. Peace, y'all.